Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday, April 13th session of the OBX Wave Report. I am Robert Scribbler, your reporter on all things waves, weather, climate, and the beaches. And for today, we've got a lot of climate stuff to talk about. Typically on Thursdays, we do a summary of what the climate scientists are talking about and Um, in a in in a term today, what the climate scientists seem to be talking a lot about is El Nino. So we're going to get into that. We've got some updates on El Nino. We've got some updates on global warming. And when it comes to El Nino and global warming, let's just be crystal clear. The primary driver of climate change is fossil fuel burning. The reason why El Nino is talked about in association with global climate is that El Nino is the hot end of natural variability. So every time the globe goes through an El Nino, we get this spike in global temperatures. And if global temperatures were normal and there wasn't a fossil fuel burning problem adding to the global heating, then the El Nino periods would move up like so on like a temperature graph, and then the La Nina periods would go down, kind of like in a wave function, and be in this like nice flat line, right? But fossil fuel burning is causing that line to move on an incline. And so what happens is when you get the hot side of natural variability, which is El Nino on that incline, you get that potential for new global temperature records. And there's a lot of talk about this. I mean, on the Twitters, I'm going to go through some of it. I don't think I'm going to be able to completely cover it all, but the main gist is that there's around a 38% likelihood now, apparently, according to the climate scientists, of a record global temperature being breached in 2023, and an even higher likelihood of record global temperatures in 2024. And some of the climate observers are getting rather concerned about these this potential new record heat, and some going so far as to say we're not really prepared for what may be coming down the pipe. And I don't want to get, super crazy alarmist. The problem with global warming is that if you keep burning fossil fuels, it always gets worse. And so we've already had bad impacts. We've had extreme weather outside of what we would normally experience. We've had extreme drought outside what we would normally experience. We've had an increasing number of hurricanes in the North Atlantic, strong hurricanes. We've had changes to tornadoes. We've had increasing severe thunderstorm intensity, and we have rising sea levels that are threatening our coastlines. And this is at around 1.2 to 1.3 degrees Celsius above the 1880s to 1920s average, which is roughly about the average temperature for the Holocene when human civilization rose up. So we're getting outside of what we're used to, and we're getting into some rough stuff, some stuff that is producing shocks to our climate system, and these shocks and changes are coming along rather rapidly. The driver being fossil fuel burning. So we're going to talk about El Nino. El Nino is that natural variability thing. It's the hot side of natural variability. And when you couple the hot side of natural variability with fossil fuel burning, which is making the globe hotter, you get that compounded effect. Okay, so I'm going to start off here at the NOAA GeoColor Composite. Why am I here? Well, one, it just gives us an idea of what's going on. We got a satellite shot of the lower 48. It's a gorgeous shot. Um, but today I wanted to point out this feature. This looks really tropical to me. I know we don't have, I just want to be crystal clear. We don't have an alert from the National Hurricane Center, but we've got this swirl of clouds over the US South that looks kind of cyclonic. We've also got a much warmer than normal Gulf of Mexico. It's worth noting that this particular storm system here is not very strong, but it will produce some severe thunderstorms likely today. And this is kind of an unexpected twist to our weather. This was not real. I mean, the models indicated that something like this might, get spun up out of the Gulf of Mexico and then, dump some heavy rain over the Gulf region. But I don't know. To me, it's got a look to it that I don't know. I don't know if this is foreshadowing. Let's hope it's not. We do have very warm temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico right now, and these temperatures as we get into summer are going to be much more able to support tropical cyclone activity. And to the south and west over the Pacific, we've got like a lot of intertropical convergence zone activity. So if we get an impulse moving from the Pacific over to the Gulf, into that very warm Gulf of Mexico, um, we could have a powerful hurricane in the early hurricane season time frame. So we'll see. El Ninos tend to be um, inhibitors for hurricane activity in the North Atlantic, and we are heading toward El Nino now. We're on El Nino watch, and there's a likelihood of El Nino by mid to late summer. But the ocean water temperatures being so warm, we've got that countervailing influence. So with the ocean water temperatures being so warm, um, we have the potential for more storms, even though El Nino might produce more wind shear, which would tend to tamp down storms. And there might be certain regions like the Gulf that during certain periods of time, like early summer, might be sheltered from the inhibitory effects of the wind shear produced by El Nino or the Pacific moving toward an El Nino type state. So I did want to start out with a geocolor composite here and show you this thing. Hopefully not a foreshadowing of what is to come. I do want to briefly talk about the Outer Banks. Right now we've got clear conditions, winds coming in from the west and southwest at about 10 to 20 miles per hour in most locations. Temperatures right now in the 60s, expected to warm up into the middle 70s. We might see warmer temperatures than that in some locations. Waves are small in the range of 1 to 3 feet. So we do expect strong winds out of the west in the 30-mile-an-hour range come this afternoon. Okay, so let's get into our discussion on El Nino. And I do want to pull one of our experts, Dr. Robert Rode here, who yesterday said, after a very warm March and with El Nino looming, the temperature forecast for the rest of 2023 has shifted higher. Now with a 38% chance of a new record annual average this year, meaning a new record global high temperature. March was much warmer than normal, about 1.5 degrees Celsius above the 1880 to 1920 average. So that was kind of a freakish March. So we shall see. Here is the Berkeley Earth likely range for the final average temperature, and with the January to March 2023 um, range here in comparison with past um, global temperature measurements. And you can see here if January to March is like kind of the indicator, it's about third hottest on record globally. If the whole year ends up following that trend, and it's also worth noting that a portion of this predicted range in the green here for 2023, the likely final range, is above both like all of the previous global temperature records. So we do have a relatively substantial risk of a record hot year for 2023. This as El Nino starts to develop. And even before El Nino started to develop, we had just a massive spate of record heat in the global ocean system, with ocean surface temperatures now the hottest that they've ever been. And just the ocean system is just really lit up right now with heat. So you've got the El Nino coming in on top of that. Okay, let's go back to El Nino. All right, so I did want to highlight this article in The Guardian that various climate types are talking about. And climate researchers say magnitude of predicted weather event uncertain, but if an extreme El Nino does occur, we need to buckle up. And some climate change models are right now warning of a possible super El Nino before the end of the year. Um, so we do have this plug of heat that is moving underneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean, and it's about to it's emerging right now in the eastern equatorial Pacific. This is a very powerful plug of heat that is emerging. Some of the models may indicate like an extraordinarily strong El Nino. It's worth noting that the NOAA models right now are not indicating like a super El Nino, at least the consensus models. Um, when I last looked. I don't know. So maybe now you know what? Let's do this. Let's pull up. We're talking about El Nino. Let's pull up the most recent NOAA El Nino report. And this will just take a second. Oopsie. Here we go. Climate Prediction Center and El Nino current conditions and expert discussions. Let's look at the T depth. I'm going to look at the T depth and animation. We were talking about the plug of heat. So there's a very large plug of heat that's moving underneath the surface of the ocean and then starting to emerge in the eastern equatorial Pacific with some pretty high temperature anomalies here out there in the eastern equatorial Pacific, getting in the range of more than 5 degrees Celsius above normal in the near surface waters. So that's a lot of heat. And getting down to the expert discussion, let's go ahead and here we go. I do want to look at the model consensus now because I'm just remembering from last week, it was really not pointing toward anything too crazy for El Nino. Just like looked like maybe 1.5 degrees Celsius. Here we go. So looking at the CFS version 2 forecast for sea surface temperature anomalies, um, looks like in the range about 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius above normal, which is pretty strong. But I mean, doesn't look too crazy. I mean, yeah, yeah, models really haven't changed that much. Looks like a little bit warmer than last week, but so apparently some researchers are talking about some models. They're pointing out the potential for a super El Nino. Right now, it's worth noting that the CFSV2s don't appear to be lining up for like super El Nino, but this does look like a relatively potent El Nino nonetheless. A pretty solid El Nino. Um, you get up into the 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius range. That's nothing to shake a stick at as far as positive temperature anomalies go. But if it gets above 2, then yeah, then we're really talking something. All right, so there's a lot of discussion right now regarding El Nino. But regardless of El Nino, oh, here we go. This is new. Okay, it looks like these new predictions are much more confident that an El Nino is going to occur. This is from the Climate Prediction Center. So we just got an update as far as the model summaries for the potential for an El Nino. And it's looking like El Nino is very certain by June, July, August, and later, possibly even developing as early as May, June, and July. So Much more certainty when it comes to El Nino coming from NOAA. So it looks like everything's starting to come into play in the Pacific. We're going to look at some sea surface temperature anomalies. Um, yeah, World Meteorological Organization showing El Nino watch. Oh, and I did want to show you this statement from Dr. Richard Knapp, which has something to do with the Gulf of Mexico. And we've been noting much warmer than normal Gulf of Mexico temperatures in this odd little swirl of thunderstorms that's now moving across the Gulf Coast. Dr. Richard Knapp notes after 3-year La Nina, we could go to El Nino this year. Usually a neutral year is between La Nina and El Nino, but previous 2 triple dip La Nina episodes were immediately followed by El Nino, including 1957. That hurricane season started with a deadly Category 3 Audrey in the Gulf in June, which is an interesting statement by Dr. Richard Knapp. Um, we've been noting much warmer than normal Gulf of Mexico temperatures, and I think there's some concern that the Madden-Julian oscillation, which is just a fancy word for lots of thunderstorms in tropical regions, we might get some severe thunderstorm activity in the tropical Pacific that could leap over into the Gulf of Mexico during the early season. If that happens, um, we could maybe get some cyclonic activity in the Gulf early, which could be somewhat unprecedented. It, unprecedented in the sense of having much warmer than normal Gulf water temperatures and a potential powerful hurricane in the Gulf early season. Of course, this is all completely speculative, but it's not unprecedented when it comes to historical trends because we just had a triple dip La Nina episode and a similar type of event back in 1957 saw the spawning of deadly Category 3 Hurricane Audrey in the Gulf in June. This is, very. This is not with any degree of certainty, but it's what it is doing is looking at past trends and current risks. Past trends being triple dip La Nina and Hurricane Audrey. Current risks being much, much warmer than normal ocean surface temperatures, particularly in the Gulf of Mexico. And this adding in a new element to the climate system that wasn't present in past triple dip La Ninas. So if there is risk in the climate system for hurricanes getting triggered due to ocean heat, we've got more of it now than we've had in the past. And this with a new El Nino very, very likely to form. And then this last statement I just wanted to show you, Dr. Robert Roode, this back from April 6th, ocean average temperatures are currently the warmest ever observed. It is hard not to look at it and be concerned. Okay, so you know what? I think I'm going to look at global ocean temperatures first. I was going to do some other news and climate preamble statements, but I did want to show you this. So this is the Eastern Equatorial Pacific, and we're starting to get much, much warmer than normal ocean surface temperatures in the Eastern Equatorial Pacific in the range of 8 to 9 degrees Fahrenheit. Maybe some 10-degree readings down in here somewhere. 9.5 looks like. Oh, close to 10. Okay, keeps wanting to zoom in on me. But very warm surface waters starting to pop here in the Eastern Equatorial Pacific. One of the interesting features or concerning features is that the whole global ocean system, for the most part, is much warmer than normal. I mean, there's very few spots that are cooler than normal, as you can see in the blue. And look at the whole Atlantic Ocean, just a pool of heat. Um, and that does not bode well for hurricane season, El Nino or no. Um, so yeah, the El Nino will increase the wind shear, but you've got that heat at the surface. So areas where the wind shear is a bit lighter and those storms do form, there's certainly serious risks. So you got those two kind of competing influences there. And then yes, we've got a very very strong El Nino signal here, looking at the ocean surface. And I encourage you to listen to the experts. There are other factors that come into play when it comes to El Nino, the atmosphere, but it does look like the atmosphere is coming into line as well. So looks like El Nino is on the way, folks, and we've got um, a lot of heat in the Gulf of Mexico there. So let's pay attention and let's be safe. Okay. Some other factors that are related to climate change. We're going to go into some of the fire weather risk that's been ongoing for broad swath of the United States. We did talk about it yesterday. But there are two major wildfires now burning in New Jersey, and this is pretty much not normal. It's really not normal for New Jersey to see extreme wildfires in the multiple thousand of acre range in April. And it's not usual for New Jersey to see like flash warming to 80-degree temperatures with a flash dry spell and strong winds that provide the fire weather hazard that we have seen not just in New Jersey, but in a large swath running from New Jersey in a crescent through Pennsylvania, the Ohio River Valley, and then turning south and west past the Mississippi down through Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. And just this very broad swath of fire risk. And we're seeing the fruits of that now in the form of two major wildfires. This is a climate crisis fingerprint as well. Very odd and severe fire weather ongoing. And the last climate change related feature that I would like to note, I haven't talked about this recently, but it just happened in the past month. Another home in Rodanthe collapses into the ocean. Um, and this is a direct impact of sea level rise and more intense storms. Rodanthe being one of those communities that either just did not have the resources to replenish the beaches there, and almost immediately you see homes collapsing into the ocean without the beach replenishment ongoing. And this is a serious issue. We're going to need to figure out a way to defend our coastlines from rising sea levels, but we're also going to need to rapidly halt the burning of fossil fuels and transition to clean energy to prevent this from happening all over. And we don't want that. It's just nasty. It's not good. It's not a good environment. It's not good to have massive piles of debris just getting swept out into the ocean because people's houses are falling into it. And we also don't need people to be losing their homes. I mean, that's a major tragedy, and this is a national tragedy. It's happening at a local level, but this is a national tragedy, folks. All right, so let's get into the weather and climate discussion. I already talked about the sea surface temperatures. They are much, much warmer than normal everywhere. Let's get down to the National Weather Service radar. And I'm going to show you. So we've got everywhere in the pink, there are red flag warnings up. And it does look like the fire hazard risk has shifted more toward the central and western US. But we do still have those wildfires burning over parts of New Jersey. And here in the Northeast and like Mid-Atlantic, I'm just going to go ahead and click on Braddock Heights, Maryland, and show you this one alert. There's a special weather statement, stating that there's still risk of there's still some fire hazard for these regions in the yellow. So I thought it would show me more about the special weather statement, but we still do have some, fire hazard and fire risk in the Northeast, although this is less than it was yesterday, thankfully. And then the red flag warnings up from the U.S. Southwest, Arizona, and New Mexico, all the way through parts of Colorado, Oklahoma, Kansas, parts of looks like the Dakotas, Iowa, Michigan, and Wisconsin and Minnesota. So fire weather risks there. And then for the Gulf Coast regions, we've got severe thunderstorm warnings up. No major advisories here for the Outer Banks yet, although we might see some gale watches and warnings pop up with those strong westerly winds predicted for later in the day. And then looking at the NOAA, I'm sorry, the enhanced cloud tops provided by GOES and tropical tidbits here, we do see that swirl of cloud over the U.S. southeast in the Gulf Coast region that's likely to produce some strong thunderstorms, possibly severe thunderstorms today. And then we do have another front moving in from the west with a dry area and hot area up ahead of our swirl of activity coming from the Gulf of Mexico. And then let's get into our local wave observations. I did get out into the water this morning for surf session number 36. The waves at Jeanette's Pier were small. It says that the waves there are 2 feet. I'm going to say not really. They're more like in the range of 1 to 1.5. There might be a 2 foot swell in there every now and again, but it's small. It's much smaller than it was. Nonetheless, I still got 4 little rides. Still practicing my stuff. Want to get stronger on my pumps and moving down the line and getting better positioning on the wave. Reading the incoming swells a bit better. So practicing all of that, and we're improving our skills. All right, so at Jeanette's Pier right now, waves are in the range of 2 feet. I'm going to say 2 feet minus. It's more like 1 to 2 feet. Primary swell coming in at 10 seconds. That's a 1.6 foot swell that is coming in from the east. Secondary swell coming in at 7 seconds, 0.6 feet coming in from the southeast. Winds right now coming in from the southwest at 13 miles per hour. That is an offshore flow. Air temperatures 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Ocean water temperature still cold at 53. Weather conditions for today, sunny with highs in the 70s, winds up to 30 miles per hour this afternoon coming in from the southwest. So it's going to get windy out there, guys. And with that small swell, it's likely to get pretty blown out by later on into the day. Did want to note that right now at Bathhouse to the north here, we've got 1 to 2 foot waves as well. All right, heading on south down past Body Island Lighthouse and Oregon Inlet. Rodanth, we find 1 to 2 foot waves, and we're going to head on. We're going to dive on past Rodanth to Avon for our next comprehensive assessment of waves, and find that Avon waves are in the range of 2 to 3 feet. I'm going to slap a little minus sign on this right now. We've got the primary swell coming in at 10 seconds. That's a 1.9 foot swell. So those 3 footers, they might be showing up every now and again, but not quite as frequent. It's probably more in the range of solid 2 foot waves there at Avon. Secondary swell for Avon coming in at 8 seconds out of the southeast as a 0.8 foot swell. Winds right now 17 miles per hour out of the southwest as an offshore flow. Air temperature 69 degrees, ocean water temperatures 59. It's getting cooler. The water temperatures are getting cooler with those west winds. That always happens here. Is if you get the west wind, it blows the Gulf Stream offshore. You get the Labrador current coming down, and it just gets colder in the ocean. Okay, weather conditions for today. Sunny, highs in the lower 70s, and we got those southwesterly winds predicted to come in at around 30 miles per hour this afternoon. And then last of all, for Buxton, right now, waves are in the range of 2 to 3 feet. Let's go on down to Buxton with those 2 to 3 foot waves. Primary swell coming in at 10 seconds out of the east. That is a 2 foot swell. Secondary swell coming in out of the southeast at 8 seconds. That is a 0.8 foot swell. The winds right now out of the southwest at 16 miles per hour. That is an offshore flow. Air temperatures 64 degrees, ocean water temperatures a little warmer down there, 62 degrees, although cooler with those west winds pushing the warm water offshore. And weather conditions today, sunny, highs in the lower 70s, winds out of the southwest near 30 miles per hour by this afternoon. And that completes our local wave observations. Let's get back out to the climate. And I did want to show you the global temperature anomaly map as I always do. And we've got much warmer than normal temperatures over most of the globe with global anomaly at 0.585 degrees Celsius above normal. The Arctic slightly cooler than normal with a pulse of cool air in the upper Arctic, just very slightly cooler than normal. Tropics heating up at 0.427 degrees Celsius above normal. The Antarctic much warmer than normal at 1.137 degrees Celsius above normal. These graphics provided by Karsten Hostein, these based on the Global Forecast System model global temperature anomaly, which is publicly available. And yep, so we yet again another day of much warmer than normal temperatures globally. If you are 44 years old or older, I'm sorry, or younger, 44 years old or younger, you have not experienced a single year that has been cooler than the norm for the 20th century. So um, the globe is heating up, and it's getting kind of gnarly out there, guys. We really do need to stop burning those fossil fuels and transition to clean energy rapidly. Okay, looking at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, we've got above normal temperatures expected for a large portion of the US east and southeast and south, with below normal temperatures expected for the west coast and parts of the northwestern upper tier of the US. Precipitation is expected to be below normal over the Ohio River Valley and eastern Great Lakes region, with above normal precipitation ranging from parts of the west coast to the upper central US and then diving down toward the Gulf Coast region. For our assessment of where the storms are likely to form, it looks like the Gulf Coast region in the southeast and the Pacific Northwest, as well as the northwestern Great Lakes region, are potential hotspots for storminess over the coming 7 days, according to NOAA's quantitative precipitation forecast. Okay, so yesterday it didn't look like it was going to be so stormy for today, tomorrow, and Saturday. But now, according to the convective outlooks, we've got some pretty high risk of severe thunderstorms for parts of Georgia, Alabama, and Florida. So all you guys in these regions, please pay attention to your local weather experts and your emergency management statements. And if severe weather threatens, please do what you can to protect yourselves and your property. Please stay safe out there, guys. And then for tomorrow, it looks like we've got an enhanced risk of severe weather over parts of Kansas, Nebraska, and Oklahoma, with some thunderstorm potential over a large swath of the central US and the US Southeast. And then heading on into Saturday, we have a pretty broad area of enhanced risk for severe thunderstorms ranging from Texas all the way through Illinois as well. So a 3-day potential for severe weather. Please pay attention, folks. These recent severe thunderstorms and tornadoes have been no joke. The main culprit, there's actually two culprits for the severe weather. One is our low pressure system moving in from the Gulf of Mexico, feeding off all of that Gulf heat and moisture. And you can see that now here in the global forecast system model. Second one is a frontal system that's sweeping down over the Rockies. And I'm going to go ahead and advance this. You can see the weather moving up from the Gulf, heading toward the north and the east over the next couple of days. And then as we get into the day on Friday and Saturday, yeah, it looks like late Friday, we get a potential for some storminess here in the Outer Banks. And then the warm front moves through the mid-Atlantic, and then that cold front starts to head on through the Mississippi River Valley region by Sunday and Monday, potentially firing off some heavy thunderstorms near the Gulf Coast region, and then moving on off toward the Appalachians late Sunday and into early Monday, with a rather strong low pressure system developing near the Great Lakes region, and then heading on north and east toward Canada. And then by early next week, we get a lot of clearing over the southeast. And looks like most of the weather systems are heading off toward the north. and some of them impacting parts of the central US. And then we've got storms coming in through the Pacific Northwest, although California now, except for the northern portions, mainly dry. By next weekend, looks like we could get severe weather and an East Coast storm. This particular forecast has been bouncing around a lot. Looked like there was a potential for nor'easter early on in the forecast. Now it looks like a possible coastal low for the U.S. Northeast or a nor'easter up there. We'll have to see how things play out. Okay, let's get into our wave forecast, and I accidentally deleted that, so we'll have to go to our wave forecast here. Let's go to ocean, waves, and waves. And okay, so getting down to our wave forecast, it does look like we're going to see mostly pretty small waves over the next 5 days. Sorry guys, not much in the way of good waves forecast for the next 5 days. Nonetheless, you probably find a swell out there, maybe a good wave here and there. In the Outer Banks, it's hard to not have a good wave somewhere. So, but nonetheless, wave heights for today in the range of 3 to 4 feet in the near offshore environment. I don't see this translating. Let's see, are we here to, yeah. Oh, no, sorry. This is now. I don't know what day I was on. Okay, so for today, wave heights in the near offshore environment in the range of 2.5 feet, so to 3 feet ish. So rather small waves in the near offshore environment and 1 to 3 foot waves onshore. For tomorrow, we start to get those southerly winds coming in to the south of us, but the remnant swell here off of the Outer Banks is just mainly hanging on, even though it's dying down. So we've got swell in the range of 1 to 2.5 feet tomorrow. So rather small waves tomorrow. And then by Saturday, we've got southerly winds prevailing and swells in the range of 3 to 5 feet near offshore, but with those southerly winds coming in, I believe these are going to be, yep, southwest winds. Most of those waves will not translate to the coastline, so we'll tend to have small 1 to 2, 1 to 3 foot waves on Saturday. And then as we get into Sunday, continuation of that southerly flow there with a swell orienting more toward the southeast and getting smaller in the range of about 2 to 3 feet. And let's see, let's look at the wind. Yeah, wind's lighter out of the west, so but still coming out of the west. So small waves on Sunday as well, and then Monday, again, southerly flow, waves picking up a bit in the near offshore environment in the range of 3 to 5 feet. So we might get some better waves with some better wraparound swell on Monday and then into Tuesday. Do we have Tuesday? Nope, we do not have Tuesday. Okay, so next 5 ways, the story for the most part is going to be small. Southern areas are likely to get some larger waves with that southerly swell coming in, and hopefully some more in the way of wraparound, but no major storm events in the Atlantic that are likely to put out a nice swell like we got from that nor'easter just recently. All right, well, thank you guys for joining me for this session of the OBX Wave Report. I kind of feel like I should be talking more about El Nino. It's starting to look a little freaky out there when it comes to global temperatures. Um, Even if we don't have El Nino, 2024 is looking like a pretty hot year. So it's looking more and more like 2024 might be a record hot year, regardless of what El Nino does. And lately in the models, El Nino has been looking a bit stronger. So these two factors lining up do point to a heightened potential for record heat from now through 2024. And that is not good news, guys. And just to be crystal clear, the primary driver of all of that is fossil fuel burning, which is pumping greenhouse gases into the atmosphere and reflecting more heat from the sun's rays back to the Earth's surface. Which is one of the reasons why at the end of my videos, I always ask you guys to please do everything you can to help speed the transition to clean energy being wind, water, solar, and electric vehicles, and also to help mass deploy the electrolyzers, which will help us produce green hydrogen, which will certainly be useful for us in materials and possibly be useful for us in things like aviation and shipping and long haul trucking. Um, it'll be good for us to have green hydrogen and be able to use that as like a fungible asset for materials, particularly for steel and for synthetic material development, and possibly for aviation, possibly for shipping like ships, shipping, and possibly for long haul trucking. Although it does look like electric vehicles and batteries, that tech is just moving really quick and might out is probably going to outcompete hydrogen in the long haul trucking as well. So that's good news. But for us, what we can do is help to support all those new technologies and with our voices at the very least. And if we've got the funds, with our funds, those electric vehicles, for example, are becoming more and more accessible. The prices are coming down. There's more production. There's more batteries. The wind and the solar, we can ask our power providers to deploy those, or we can place solar panels on our homes. And we can vote. We can vote both with our pocketbooks and over at the ballot box, vote for candidates who support a rapid transition to clean energy. That's going to do the things that we need to save our coastlines from the impacts of climate change. We don't want to have masses of homes getting smashed and falling into the ocean, and big debris fields and septic tanks getting washed into our waters. We don't want that, guys. It's just nasty. We want to protect our oceans, so and because we enjoy them, right? We don't want to live in like we don't want the ocean to be like a giant landfill, right? So thank you for joining me for this session of the OBX Wave Report. I love all you guys. If you get out there